Good evening, and thank you all for joining us, taking a few moments out of your busy schedules. But it's not as busy as it's going to be, and so we are thankful that coming into the holiday season, you've got a lot of events, I'm sure, at your church that you may want to promote to your community. You may have other things coming up, maybe a fall festival, Thanksgiving special events, maybe it's Christmas that you want to market out to your community. That being said, marketing is something that we can all benefit from all time of year. So thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. If you would, in the comments, just let us know where you're joining from. And in the spirit of collaboration, why don't you also share, if you can, if you have something, one thing that you have done marketing wise that you feel has really worked well for you. Maybe that can inspire another church and just be a way to support each other. So in the comments, let us know where you're joining us from this evening and one thing you've done that you feel has really worked to help market and let people know what your church is doing. As we get into tonight's training, we are really excited to have Gabriella Grundy with us. She was a summer intern here at the Georgia Cumberland Conference this past summer, and both of our conferences, both Kentucky, Tennessee, and Georgia Cumberland, are strong believers in the internship program. We thank our members, we thank our conference leadership for that support. Xander, I know, was an intern there, and a little bit ago, and this past summer we had Gabriella, and just the what they do to help bolster the program and bring new and fresh ideas. So we are delighted to have her, and we've brought her back because she really understands the marketing space. How do we know that? Well, she is a senior business administration and public relations student at Southern, and so she is a gifted digital content creator who really understands how to create content that engages and attracts audiences of all ages. And so with that being said, let's dive into this evening's training. Stick around till the end. We've got our live Q&A. So as you have questions that might come up, feel free to put that in the comment sections and we'll get to those at the end. And also you want to stick around because you have the opportunity to help direct and shape the training that we might be doing next year, or look forward to doing next year, rather. So stick around to the end. You don't want to leave early tonight. With that, let us get into this evening's training.
When you hear the term church marketing, it may initially sound time-consuming and costly. In today's digital age, we are overwhelmed with an infinite amount of the latest and greatest online tools and platforms that we could potentially use for our churches. But which are the best, most user-friendly, and most cost-effective? Hi, I'm Gabriella Grundy with the Georgia Cumberland Conference, and today we'll be discussing and honing in on a few effective digital marketing strategies and tools that you can implement in your church to connect with both members of your congregation and potential visitors who could very well become part of your church community in the future. Tools for awareness. Did you know that the most searched term on Google when people are looking for a church to visit is churches near me? This is why it's important to improve your church's SEO, or search engine optimization. Start by making sure your church has a running website filled with relevant information such as location, contact information, service times, and upcoming events. Making your church's website look good can take some time, but it is well worth it in the long run. To help you, Adventist Church Connect, a ministry of the North American Division, provides free websites and support to Adventist churches. While many churches use their default template, they have other multiple template options to select from, and the ability to customize colors. They are also about ready to upgrade to a WordPress-based platform that will provide even more options and value for churches. Another step to improve your SEO is to use Google's tools, including Google Business Profile, Google Maps, and Google Reviews. First, you'll need a Gmail address associated with your church. Follow good security protocols, but it is recommended that 2 to 3 people, such as the pastor, church secretary, communication director, or AV director, have access to this account. Use this email to create a Google Business Profile for the church and put as much specific information on the account as possible. including address, hours, phone number, photos, and a couple inviting sentences about the church. It is a good idea for these sentences to reflect information easily found on your website homepage. Then, make sure your church is showing up on Google Maps, not just the address, but the name of the church with pictures. Make sure that your church is visible on the major maps platforms as well, such as Apple Maps and Bing. Another way to increase your website's visibility is to have members write positive Google reviews. Rather than thinking about it as making people write reviews, think of it as an opportunity for current members to share their positive testimonies of being at your church to others who are looking for a church to visit. Always be sure to regularly read your reviews and respond to both positive and negative reviews. Recognize people that have a positive comment with replies such as, "Glad you were blessed," or "We look forward to worshiping with you next time." When you receive negative comments, respond to those as well, showing God's love. Maybe a response like, "Sorry you didn't receive the worship experience that you were hoping for. We hope that you can find a church that draws you closer to Jesus." Or, "Sorry this church isn't your style. Please call or email if you'd like a list of other Adventist churches in the area." This shows that you are engaged with people and care about people's spiritual journey. To access and respond to Google reviews, you'll need a Google Business profile. So again, another reason to set that up. Website call to action. A church's website needs some sort of strong call to action. A specific website feature your church can implement is a visitor form, often called a plan your visit form. Potential visitors who fill out this form are more likely to actually show up for church on Sabbath, especially if you have someone available to follow up with that visitor and tell them that your church is excited to have them. Understanding the power of social media. Social media is no longer just for socializing. It's a vital instrument for outreach and community building. Platforms like Facebook and Instagram provide an accessible and cost-effective way to share your message with your members, as well as a broader audience. Many of your churches probably already have social media accounts set up, and some may even be fairly active. But let's talk about how we can maximize the benefits of using social media for your church. Facebook. Once you have a Facebook page set up for your church, this page will serve as the central hub for all your online activities. Make sure that the page is updated with relevant information, such as service times, location, contact details, and a link to your website. Promoting events. Facebook's event feature is perfect for promoting church events. Whether it's a church service, Bible study group, or a special community event, create an event page that includes all the essential details. Encourage your members to RSVP and share the event with their networks. For example, if your church is hosting a Christmas concert, create a Facebook event with eye-catching visuals and a compelling description. Share behind-the-scenes content as the event approaches to build anticipation. Sharing content. Consistently share content that resonates with your audience. This can include Bible verses, photos, and even short clips from recent sermons if your church has someone who can dedicate some of their time to video editing. For instance, post a 30 to 60-second clip from your church's most recent sermon during the week, along with a question for reflection. This not only reinforces the sermon's message, but also encourages interaction as members discuss their thoughts in the comments. Using Facebook Live. Facebook Live is a fantastic way to bring the church experience to those who can't attend in person. Live stream your sermons, worship services, and even special events. Encourage viewers to comment and interact during the broadcast. After the live stream, the video remains on your page, allowing people to watch it later. This is particularly effective for reaching those who may be hesitant to attend a service in person. Instagram. Instagram is ideal for visually driven content, making it a powerful platform for storytelling and connecting with a younger audience. Highlighting sermon clips. Short video clips from sermons can be highly engaging on Instagram. Select a powerful or thought-provoking moment from your sermon and share it as a post or reel. Add subtitles to make the content accessible, even when the sound is off. This not only gives people a taste of your services, but also provides spiritual nourishment throughout the week. Short-form vertical video is the way to go on Instagram. You can use a paid service like Adobe Premiere Pro or free basic versions of CapCut or Canva. Photos. On both Instagram and Facebook, post high-quality photos that capture the essence of your church community. This could include images of your church building, moments from your services, or snapshots from community events. For example, post candid photos of people mingling during a church potluck. Members of your church will enjoy seeing photos of them or their fellow churchgoers, and potential visitors could also see your photos and be drawn in by the warmth of your church community. Cross-platform strategies. Here's how to use platforms in tandem effectively. Consistency in branding. Ensure that your church's branding is consistent across your social media accounts. Use the same profile picture, description, and color schemes. This consistency helps in establishing a recognizable and professional online presence. Make sure your website is also consistent with your other platforms. Integrate content. Share content across both platforms, but tailor it to the specific audience of each. For example, a Facebook event post about an upcoming event can be paired with an Instagram post of a flyer or video promoting the event. This creates cohesion for both platforms and ensures that both audiences are getting the same content, but catered specifically for their preferred platform. Develop a content calendar. Maybe it includes a post on Sabbath afternoon highlighting the worship service, a post on Monday or Tuesday with a short video clip from last week's sermon, a post on Thursday with a Bible verse and short teaser for Sabbath's message, and a post on Friday inviting people to church on Sabbath, again, connecting to the sermon topic. Practical tips for content creation. Content is key when it comes to social media marketing. Here are some practical tips to help you create impactful content. Plan ahead. Create a content calendar to plan out your posts for the month. This ensures that your social media presence is consistent and well thought out. Include a mix of content types, such as event promotions, sermon clips, and photos. Engage with your audience. Social media is not a one-way street. Engage with your members by responding to comments, asking questions, and encouraging discussions. This interaction helps build a sense of community and helps your members feel valued. Use hashtags strategically. Hashtags can increase the visibility of your posts, especially on Instagram. Use a combination of popular and niche hashtags related to your content. For example, if you post a sermon clip, you might use hashtags like #sermonshort, #faith, and #insert your church name. Momentum. Keep posting consistently, ideally at least twice per week, to keep the momentum of engagement and growth going so that you don't have to start over. With this being said, quality over quantity is always the way to go. Focus on curating quality posts, but be realistic so that you don't burn out. Steady, sustainable growth is the goal. Remember your audience. Post content that benefits your audience and not just promotes your church. Instead of a post showing people attending your church service and your pastor speaking with a text that says, "At church this week, Pastor John spoke about the Good Samaritan," show pictures of church members and families smiling and talking with each other, singing or reading their Bible, with a text that says, "It was so good to see people encouraging each other, participating in worship, and experiencing God this week at church. Pastor John's message on helping people we meet on life's path was inspiring." For a post inviting people to next week's message, say, for example, about the end time events. Instead of saying, "Tomorrow's sermon is on end time events. Join us at 11 a.m." You could say something like, "Is there hope for the future? Are you excited about an upcoming holiday or dreading news from your doctor? How far into the future are you looking? Join us tomorrow at 11 a.m. and explore how your future can be limitless through God's offer of eternity." You're invited, in person or online. Ultimately, the digital marketing tools we've talked about today offer a tremendous opportunity for your church to extend its reach, engage with your congregation, and draw in new members. By understanding how to optimize your church's online presence and taking advantage of product deals available for nonprofits, you can increase awareness for your church, create quality content with some of the best creative platforms, and consistently run advertisements to increase awareness of your church. By effectively utilizing platforms like Facebook and Instagram, your church can foster an online community that complements and even acts as a gateway to in-person connection. The key to success is consistency, authenticity, and a genuine desire to connect and share Jesus with others. Let's watch how God can use these modern tools to spread his timeless message.
Wow, we covered a lot of ground in the last few minutes right there. So we want to thank Gabriella for really putting so much information in that. A lot of great and wonderful tips to include there. So again, if you have any questions that you want answered, that this prompted for you as you're thinking about what you can do better, let us know in the comments. We definitely want to address those. Now is your time to ask those. And so with that being said, start typing away, get those fingers working, and let us know your questions. We've got a couple here that have come in, and so we're going to have Gabriella continue to share her expertise and insight with us. And we're just going to start right off. How do I inform my community about our events? What can you share with us about how to do that?
Yeah, thank you. Great to be here. So how do we inform our community about our events? So you kind of have to look at this as you're feeding into two channels. So you're looking at your current members and also potential visitors, kind of as we talked about in the video. So with your current members or people that you're assuming already follow your social media, that's where you can utilize things like the Facebook event creation. And then you can pair that with, for example, a flyer on Instagram. So using those channels where that's going to reach, your current followers / members, that's one way to go about it. And then as far as potential visitors and people that you're trying to draw into your church, a great way to do this is through advertisements. And actually, Facebook ads are very cheap to run. It's like less than a cent per ad or per reach, basically. So compared to mail marketing, for example, that's going to run you more like 50 cents per piece of mail. If you're doing ads on Facebook, that's less than a cent per person you're reaching. And on Facebook, you can really narrow down who you're trying to reach with these ads. So you can specify their age, gender, even like their financial situation. Like it can get very specific. So if you're having like a fall festival coming up, you can narrow in those ads on moms with young kids. So that's really a great tool and a very cost-effective tool for churches to utilize to inform the community about your upcoming events.
What type of other community opportunities might there be to share church events? Maybe community calendars, community newspapers. What other opportunities might there be besides just our own platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, you can, run things in the local paper. Traditional flyers are still a very effective way. If you know kind of where bulletin boards are, kind of around town, that's a great place to start. And you can even, if there's a bigger event coming up, you can reach out to your local news organizations and try to have like a press release sent out to, certain parts of the community announcing your event. So those are some other channels you can use as a church.
Yeah, and it's so important to engage with the community, and that's part of marketing. And I think I saw a question here that I think I'm going to jump to. Can you unpack the difference between marketing and public relations? Because this sort of touches on some of those other community aspects you can put into your tool chest.
Yeah, for sure. So public relations, you're more looking at building relationships, and that's the relations part of the name there. So that's where you're looking at, um, unpaid media or advertising, like such as sending your local news station a press release talking about your event. Whereas marketing is usually more, it's more like strategic. At least that's kind of the backbone. And then you do get into more like specific strategies that tend to be paid. And like there's a very close intersection between public relations, marketing, and advertising. And advertising is specifically paid media only. So there's a lot of intersection between them, but the main thing to remember is that public relations is really just about building relationship with your community, whereas marketing is going more into the strategy on how you're going to achieve that.
Yeah, it's so true. And the more you do public relations, the more effective your marketing will be because you'll already have those relationships. And so you can tap into those relationships that you have. So, for example, if you have an event for kids and you've built a relationship with an area school, you can go to that school and use that to help promote your event. But that's the public relations side that takes place before you have an event, after you have an event. It's just that community building that it's biblical too, right? You think about Jesus. He went around and he built relationships with people by talking with them, and so we can't ignore one without doing the other. They both play hand in hand. So yeah, this is a great question that we got. Are hashtags still a thing, or is that an outdated practice now? What insight do you have on hashtags?
That's a great question, and I find myself thinking about this too. But hashtags are absolutely still relevant, and there's different uses for them. We kind of touched briefly on this in the video, but to go more in depth, using generic hashtags on your post is really important as far as like getting it out to a very broad audience, not necessarily even your community. So like if you post a sermon reel and you use the hashtag inspirational or something, chances are there could be somebody on social media wanting to find an inspirational video and they search up hashtag inspirational, and there's a chance that they come across your video and that um, really leaves a positive impact on them. So using generic hashtags is still important as far as like a broader reach. And if you're really trying to hone in on having an online presence as a church, that's really important to do because you never know who you're going to reach. And then more specific hashtags, obviously, like if you're having an ongoing event, such as like a week of prayer, if you kind of create a hashtag for your church to use for that event, and kind of make sure that's going on all your posts, that's going to be a great way for like more community people to find your event. And like if your post is shared, people will see that hashtag, and specific hashtags, especially if they're reiterated a lot like in the content, is going to be memorable to people and help them, be more aware of the event that's going on.
So true. A place there are more and more tools. This is sort of the era that we live in, right? There isn't a either or. It's just a new tool that we have to work with. And so, again, jumping to another question that we have is, what can I do today to improve my website SEO? And there's some similarities with website SEO and social media content, but maybe you can make some connections and tell us specifically on tools I can do, things I can do now to improve my website.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say I'm still a student. I'm still learning lots and trying to stay up with the latest information. But generally, improving your SEO for your website is all about just having relevant information and the latest information, and having as much as possible. So beyond like phone number, address, those standard things, you can add more, um, to within your website. Um, I'm trying to think of specific examples right now, but um, things that will help your website come up first, because the Google search engine is a very competitive space. So if somebody's just looking up churches near me, that's pretty generic. So if they're within your city limit, or kind of area, chances are, like, you could come up if you make sure you have your address and what city you're in and all of that relevant information on there. And I'm sure Nathan can also touch a little bit more on some specifics that you can add that will really boost that for your website.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, but something that actually just Gabrielle mentioned. I'm still a student. I'm still trying to get up to speed. Well, this is the era that we live in, right? Is things are always changing. And just this week, actually, I saw an article that Google is prioritizing websites that the better a website does on mobile, the better it's going to do in your search engine optimization algorithms. And so traditionally, mobile scores have ranked have played a part, excuse me, in Google's algorithm, but now they are leaping to the top. One of the main factors that they're looking at. And so if your website is mobile friendly, it's going to do significantly better. That now carries a heavier weight than it used to. And so things like, does it look good on my phone? Does it have easy to use menus such as hamburger menus? Are the images optimized so they load quickly? All those factors play into part of that algorithm. And what Gabriella was talking about too is coming up with searches, is what are phrases that people might be using to find your church, and being sure those phrases appear on your webpage, either as headings or naturally placed in the content of your web pages. And this is the connection to social media. Is the question about hashtags. Are hashtags not a thing anymore? They are still a thing. They're just playing a different role, because the website platforms are now also, Facebook's been doing this for a while. Instagram is doing more of it, is using search terms as well to pull up posts and relying less on hashtags. But there is still a place, as Gabriella mentioned. So all these things play in together to improve your search engine optimization. All right. Another question: how often? Again, another factor that plays into SEO. How often should my website be updated? Great question.
That is a great question. I think the general rule for websites for a company per se would be once a year, roughly. For a church, that could look a little different, especially depending on your size. But really, if you think about it, you want to be making some updates to your website all the time. And while this might sound like, oh, like that's a lot of work, it comes down to small things, like if you have, a directory embedded in your website, keeping that updated, keeping your forms updated if you have like a visitor form or something, just making sure, or contact information, just making sure it's relevant. But as far as like overall your design, your layout, for a church, it would probably not need to be super often. Definitely not once a year. It just depends on if you're really trying to rebrand yourself as a church. And as far as staying relevant within your community and beyond, if that's what your church is looking to do, then it just depends on that, whether you're completely revamping your website.
Yeah, you want just some visitor consistency, right? How often should I be trying to update content on the wording and the different content areas on my website?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to keep things fresh. You can definitely change up your wording, but as on websites, it's especially important to make sure you have dynamic um, type, like, so having headings and subheadings and paragraphs. so that it's not just reading all as one long paragraph, especially as Nathan was talking about, being more mobile friendly. And, our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter these days. So making sure your website visually is dynamic and trying to be as succinct as possible with what you're saying on each page.
All very important. Yeah. We were actually talking about that in our office this week about websites that you type in and want to find something, and then you have to scroll down 3/4 of the page to actually find out what you're looking for. And nobody likes that, but that's what websites do. So just one of those things. And keeping the content relevant, right? If you have outdated content, that doesn't always work. And so the more relevant, more current content you have, the more you update your content, the more Google will crawl it and re-index it. And so again, the main thing is having relevant content that people are looking for. You mentioned it, I think, in the video, Gabriella, but what is the easiest platform for church websites for a low cost, or might I even add for free?
Yeah, so right now for churches, it's absolutely Facebook, but also I think Instagram is almost as important um, as far as making sure that you're, reaching a younger audience. So, the platforms um, have been shifting over the years, kind of what their audience is and what kind of content best reaches people on each platform. So for a church, definitely Facebook is the most important, just simply because of all of their features, like the different types of posts you can make, the event um, options, and you can have all of your information right there on the about page. Like there's just so much that you can have on your one page there on Facebook, and also the low cost ads that I mentioned earlier. But using Instagram in tandem with Facebook as a church is really important to reach that younger audience. And you don't necessarily have to make completely different content on Instagram, because really, even though young people are they're looking for fun and engaging content, a lot of the times they're looking for entertainment. They're not necessarily looking for that in a church. The church has a very specific role in social media for young people, and I don't think a church needs to necessarily um, try to fill the more entertainment side of things, because a student or a young person may be coming on their church's social media for spiritual nourishment, for a break from the norm. So that would be my advice, is to really use Facebook, but also keep up with your Instagram in tandem with your Facebook.
And paralleling that, could you just dive in briefly? This is a whole nother conversation, really, and maybe another train in the future if you all want it. But just briefly, tell us how we can get insights using analytics. This is something you did as part of your summer here, diving into a little bit more, using those analytics to really help churches understand which platform different age groups are going on to.
Yeah, absolutely. So Facebook and Instagram have really great built-in analytics. Even if you're just a single individual with your personal page, you can still go and look at all the analytics of your posting times or the type of content. So as a church, it's really important to pay attention to those, even if you have a small following or a small audience that you're reaching with your content. You'll be able to monitor what types of content seem to be doing the best, and by doing the best, that could mean number of impressions, meaning how many times your post comes up on somebody's timeline, or it could also mean that you're looking for engagement, you're looking for comments and stuff like that. So what kind of content is meeting those goals for you? And also, posting time has proven to be really important, and maintaining a level of consistency in that is great too. So if you're finding that for your church's Facebook, posting at 8 a.m. seems to be when your posts are reaching the most people. Try to generally post at that same time. So if you post on Tuesdays and Thursdays, then your audience is going to start to, have that expectation or even anticipation for, oh, like my church is going to be releasing their next post tomorrow morning. And the same goes for Instagram. Instagram may look different than Facebook as far as optimum times or what type of content does better. But paying attention to those analytics is going to help you maximize the reach of your content.
So true, and something that I'll say, don't be afraid of experimenting. It's easy to get in a routine, and that's sort of what we had fallen into in our office. And Gabriella really helped us try some new things, try some different posting times, and look at those analytics. Other analytics that can be helpful to you as well are your gender, your age ranges that are on each of those platforms, and so a lot of tools that you can really dive into there. What are some good calls to action for my website and social media?
Great question. I think as far as a call to action as a church, your biggest call to action, at least for people that you're trying to draw into your church, is "We want you here." And that can look different for each church, how they say that. Some churches really emphasize like that they're very family oriented. So you could, sit down with some of other people at your church and try to come up with, a catchy sort of call to action that um, is really inviting and also speaks to your church and what your church is looking to do in the community. And again, maintaining consistency. So having that call to action on your website and on your social media is important. So I know like a church in the area that I can think of right now, their kind of motto is love well. So even though that's very short, that's only 2 words, they have done a really great job at kind of putting that across all their different platforms, and people know that's that church's kind of motto or call to action.
You had one in the video, Gabriella, of plan your visit. Are there other short phrases that you can think of that are grab the attention and are very descriptive?
So yeah, definitely plan something with the word visit, or something that emphasizes that we want you here now is going to be great. So you could be um, I guess kind of I don't know what the right word is, not silly, but you could say like "see you this Sabbath" or something like on your website, and people are going to see that and be like, "Oh, like, you know, they're really excited to have me here," and they're even kind of already, even though it's through a screen, they're already kind of joking around with me as a church. And it's like if people see that's the energy and they're drawn to that, even from um, the messaging of that short phrase, that could be enough to draw people in and have them either fill out a visitor form or make a call or plan to visit on that following Sabbath.
So many good points there. And sort of again, you mentioned it in your video in the training, but authenticity matters. And so whatever you are putting out there, social media, website, be sure that that is the experience people are getting once they arrive. And so if you have a friendly vibe on your platforms, be sure you have a friendly vibe when they get there. Very, very important that continues throughout their entire experience. So we might want to follow up on this. So we've seen a drop in our audience on social media. We've seen a drop in our audience on social media this summer. What factors can contribute to this, and can we prevent it? That's a loaded question. What insight do you have for us?
Yeah, well, I'd say in general, at least thinking specifically about summer, I think attendance numbers drop for churches in the summer because people are traveling, people are doing a lot of stuff with their families. Um, so that could be a contributing factor. You know, people, it's, or especially around here, there's lots to do outdoors in the summer. So people may actually be more unplugged in a sense in the summer. Um, and I think rather of course it is kind of alarming to be like, oh, like I see, there's a negative, whether that's like followers or you're not having as much engagement, but that really is an opportunity for you to take a step back and maybe look at those analytics, or maybe even talk to some of your church members directly, and like, hey, do you follow our social media, like, what do you like about it, what do you not like about it? And that might be your opportunity to experiment, as we were talking about earlier, and see what works. So just trying to not look at it as, oh, like we're we're losing people. It's a time that you can look at to rebuild and maybe try new things. So I'd s- I I'd say like um, other reasons, like a drop in followers not in the summer. It could be um, that people are, trying to shave down like their following. Like people may be like following 1,000 accounts and they're like, oh, like I need to shave down. And that's why, um, as a church, like if your page is not very active and you're not being consistent, somebody might be more inclined to drop your page from their following. So if you're maintaining consistency as a church in your posting, and kind of following some of the strategies we've talked about to maximize how your posts get seen, that may help in retaining your followers or your audience members.
It reminds me of an analogy or method that I've heard. There's seasons of growing, and there's seasons of nurturing, just like in the Bible where we plant and we reap. And so summer in many ways is more of a nurturing phase, ramping up to growing back when school starts back up. And so how do we re-engage with those members after the summer slump is over, so to speak? It is a fairly common phenomenon in churches, unfortunately. But what do we do to keep our members engaged during the summer? So maybe if they're not attending, we can still try to keep them engaged with some sort of different content that relates to what they're going through in that season, and then re-engaging back in September, middle of October, to try to grow back and build some momentum going into the fall months where you have Thanksgiving and Christmas, which naturally can be high times. So paying attention to the audience and feeding them what nurtures them and what they are there for, right? Is there any help we can get in our churches with all of our social media, and what kind of support does the conference provide? Gabriella, do you want to tackle that one, or you want to leave that one alone?
Well, I can talk a little bit about specifically in churches. I definitely will leave the conference support to our very own Nathan Zinner. So just kind of touching on within your church, um, social media, even though its importance is growing, this can be an opportunity for your church to, um, especially if you're a smaller church, maybe to utilize your lay people, and especially um, if you're trying to keep, young people engaged or involved, that's a great opportunity to kind of delegate some responsibility. So it could be that you have a team of two or three that are, do the church social media as kind of, a side thing. So you could have like one person in charge of making the graphics for a post, and one person in charge of maintaining a posting schedule, and then maybe another person is in charge of monitoring like comments or direct messages or something like that. So that's a great opportunity to um, engage some of your lay people in the church.
Nailed it. Church communication is definitely a collaborative effort. So the more people you can bring in to help you, there are tools that, especially in Facebook, to give other people access, and maybe they can make drafts of posts but can't publish them. So maybe a younger person, you can tap into the interests and skills that they naturally have, but to just be sure that what goes out does actually accurately represent the church, you can provide a sort of a moderation step in there. And so tapping into the resources of your church, spreading that throughout some of the people is a great tip. So thank you for that. As far as resources from the conference, these trainings, the different types of trainings that our conferences do, Paola goes and does trainings in churches. We do these online. We have some ideas, but I can't get ahead of the ideas in reality. But as they become available, we'll be sure to let you know. If there are specific questions that you have, feel free to reach out to us. We are glad to try to help the best we can. As far as just hands-on, really getting into the nitty-gritty of social media, I don't believe any of our conferences are really doing that. Just the workload to support that many churches gets pretty cumbersome pretty quickly. There are other services out there. Again, if you have, depending on what you're needing or wanting, you can reach out and we can try to help you and direct you in the best way possible. So you're seeing some of our emails there. Paola's will scroll across there as well. And so feel free to email, call, and we'll be glad to help you the best we can. I think we're going to, unless there's any more questions, we've got one more here. What are some tips for creating content and building engagement on Twitter? It seems like it's a dying platform, but some people are still finding a use for it. So, Gabriella, what can you tell us about Twitter? Now X.
Yes. So I think the greatest tool that Twitter/X can be for your church, at least these days, is keeping people up to date in real time. So I would say that that's not the most ideal platform for to be focusing on primary content for. I'd say you can like kind of use, at least to save yourself some labor, you can, you know, reuse some stuff that you might have used for Facebook or Instagram. But if there is like an ongoing event in your church and you have like a Twitter X account, that's where you can be, you know, making posts pretty rapidly and keeping people up to date. Like we're, you know, our fall festival is opening in an hour, you know, see you there, those type of things. And additionally, on a more serious side, that's also a great place if there's an ongoing crisis in your church, just kind of keeping people updated on the latest information. But that obviously gets into a whole other topic. But I'd say X is a very has been a pretty volatile social media platform in recent times. So that may not be the best place to pour a lot of energy into for making content specific for that platform.
The most important question, it's easy to get spread across platforms, right? One of the most important questions you can go into is ask the why. What is the purpose of why I want to be on this platform or that the next platform, and who is my audience, and what do I want to accomplish by being on that platform? And so that will help guide you. Every platform has its strengths. Every platform takes more time. And so how you decide what to do partly is also part of the conversation has to be, what are you wanting to get out of it, and what is your purpose for being there? I want to touch on, we've had a few different things. We've talked about variations. So this is just a question I want to throw it to you, Gabriella. what type of content did you find did really well this summer as you were helping us? Or even just some strategies, some content and strategies that you worked on to just really uh, have made an impact.
Yeah, so first of all, I will say I had a lot of fun this summer, and that kind of goes back to what we were talking about as far as using social media as an opportunity to engage maybe some of your younger people and help them feel like they can contribute with the specific skills that they have. So I had a lot of fun doing that, and thinking of new ideas and some content that did surprisingly well over the summer was short form video content. This went for both Facebook and Instagram, but especially on Instagram, where that platform is built more for reels, for short form video. Um, it did really well, and what that looked like was Sabbath posts where we had like a some stock video and overlaid some scripture and had some, inspirational music to go along with it. Because those kind of things, they're short, they're visually appealing, and they're very shareable. So I think that's a really important thing to think about is like, how shareable is this content to somebody that has never even heard of my church? So that was a really great thing that we were able to um, do this summer. And also, even though I mentioned um, your church platform doesn't necessarily have to fit the mold of fun and entertaining like, other content is, so much of the content is on these platforms. But we did do some more, fun content. We did some like man on the street style content for our camp meeting. And that is really fun because it just shows it shows people, and that can be especially fun for a church community to do some more fun content like that, and they're like, oh, like that's Barbara from Bible study type of thing, like that's fun. Or if you got on it, then you're anticipating seeing yourself pop up on social media, so that's fun and engaging for everyone. As far as strategy, that definitely goes back to looking at analytics and looking at the past and what has done well, what hasn't, and kind of taking that and um, just seeing what fresh ideas you can bring. So I know I talked a lot about video, um, but I would say that at least from what I've noticed with a lot of our churches here, that is something that we can definitely build upon in our church social medias is doing more video-based content.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had a lot of fun with those men on the street. I've seen comments about pictures of church members, all that type of stuff. The man on the street is a type of testimony in a way, a way to give a face to your church personality through your members. People like seeing themselves. People like seeing they can relate to. And so you hit it on the head there. That kind of stuff did well. New ways of doing it, and we continue to do that kind of stuff, and we find that works well. So, Gabriella, we really want to thank you for bringing your time and expertise. We looked at the time like, oh wow, we've got to wrap this up. So, thank you all for hanging around, and hopefully this was helpful to you. Coming up, we've always in the past promoted about what we're doing next, and this sort of wraps up the end of this season of online trainings, if you will. But we want to hear from you to really understand, hear a little bit more about what you might want us to talk about in the future. And so we've got a survey. If you don't mind just filling that out, not every question is required, but if you can fill that out, that will help us know what to plan for next year, what's working for you, what's not working for you. And we'd really appreciate your input there. And you can help shape the future of these trainings. Going into next year, we have the Georgia Cumberland Conference is going to be hosting a live in-person training. We are looking at it being around live streaming and volunteer base. So we're still finalizing some details on that. Everyone who has attended today through the StreamYard platform, we will be glad to send you a link when we have those details finalized and invite you to that. Kentucky, Tennessee people, you're glad to drive down here and attend as well. We don't limit it. It is typically a free event. Now, we provide a lunch. It's an all day on a Sunday. And so we'll push all that information out on our website and our socials as we have more information. Stay tuned. We really appreciate what you do in your church to be making a difference in your community with your members and just providing new ways that your church can reach those in your community with the love of Jesus. And so thank you for what you do. Thank you for taking the time this evening. And we look forward to seeing you next time.